The sun was going down, and the sky turned orange and pink over the tall buildings of the city. Asher Lockwood stood by the big floor-to-ceiling windows in his tall penthouse office. He was 42 years old and had everything money could buy. He owned a real estate business worth billions. He had properties in 3 continents and was known as one of the most powerful businessmen in the whole country. "Mr. Lockwood, the board is waiting for you in the conference room," said his assistant Lillian, standing at the doorway. Asher fixed his expensive suit and nodded. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes." When Lillian left, he looked at the black and white photo on his desk. It was of his mother. She had worked 3 jobs just to buy food when he was a child. They had lived in the poorest part of the city. She had passed away 5 years ago, right after his company became one of the top 500 in the country. "I did it, Mom," he whispered. He always said this to her picture. The board meeting went well. The company's profits were up by 20%, and their new downtown project was ahead of schedule. Asher signed some papers with his gold pen and smiled as he told everyone they could go. "Will you be going to the charity gala tonight, sir?" Lillian asked while picking up the papers. Asher had completely forgotten about the event. He was the guest of honor for giving a lot of money to the city's homeless shelters. "Yes. Have Donovan bring the car at 8, he said after checking his watch. He had just enough time to go home and change. As his chauffeur drove through the busy streets, rain began to fall. Asher watched the raindrops race down the car window. He thought about what he would say in his speech. He would talk about helping the community and remembering where you came from. He knew it was a bit strange because while he gave millions to charities, he didn't really think about his old life anymore. The poor neighborhood he had grown up in was now far away in his mind, like a closed book. The car stopped at a red light in a part of town he rarely visited. It was near his old neighborhood, just a few blocks from where he used to live in a small 2-bedroom apartment with his mother. That's when he saw her. A small figure was huddled near a dumpster, trying to keep the rain off with a piece of cardboard. She was looking through trash, picking out old food containers and checking them. Something about the way she moved made Asher's heart jump. He leaned forward, squinting through the rainy window. "Donovan, wait here," he said suddenly, opening the car door. Cold rain soaked his expensive suit, but he didn't care. He walked toward the woman slowly so he wouldn't scare her. When she looked up, time seemed to stop. Those eyes. He knew those eyes, even after 25 years. "Juliet?" His voice was soft, almost lost in the rain. The woman froze, holding a half-eaten sandwich in her dirty hand. Her clothes were ripped and wet. Her once beautiful face was now thin and tired. But it was her, Juliet Carter, his first love, the girl he had once planned to marry. "Asher?" Her voice was rough, full of disbelief. Then shame crossed her face, and she turned away. "Don't look at me, please." Asher felt like he had been punched in the stomach. Juliet Carter, once the smartest student in school, the girl who wanted to be a doctor, was now homeless and digging in the trash for food. "Juliet, what happened?" "Go away, Asher," she said quickly, still not looking at him. "Go back to your perfect life and forget you saw me." But Asher couldn't move. He wouldn't leave her again. 25 years ago, he had let her go when she left for a famous college far away, while he stayed to care for his sick mother. They had promised to keep in touch, but the calls stopped, the letters stopped, and then they lost each other completely. "I'm not leaving you here," he said, taking off his wet jacket and putting it on her shoulders. "Come with me, please." Juliet finally looked at him. Her blue eyes, once so bright, were now dull with sadness. "Why? So you can feel good about yourself? The rich man saving his poor ex-girlfriend? No thanks." "It's pouring rain, Juliet. You're soaked. At least let me take you somewhere warm tonight. No strings attached." She hesitated, holding his jacket tightly. The rain got heavier and thunder rumbled in the distance. "Just for tonight," she finally said softly. Asher helped her to his car. His chauffeur, Donovan, looked surprised but opened the door. "Change of plans, Donovan. Take us to my house." The ride to Asher's huge mansion was quiet. Juliet sat far from him, staring out the window. Asher kept looking at her, trying to understand how the lively girl he once loved had turned into this fragile woman. When they arrived, Juliet's eyes widened at the size of his home, but she quickly hid her reaction. Asher led her inside, where his housekeeper, Mrs. Nora, greeted them, shocked. "Mrs. Nora, this is Juliet. She'll be staying here for a while. Please prepare the guest room and find her some dry clothes." Mrs. Nora smiled kindly. "Of course, Mr. Lockwood. Come with me, dear. Let's get you warmed up." Juliet looked at Asher, unsure. "It's okay," he said gently. "Mrs. Nora will take good care of you. I need to make some calls." After Juliet left with Mrs. Nora, Asher called Lillian to say he wouldn't attend the gala. He thought it was funny. He was missing a homeless charity event because he was helping an actual homeless person. Later, Mrs. Nora came to him. "She's settled in, sir. I gave her some of your sister's clothes. I made her soup and sandwiches, but she barely ate before falling asleep." "Thank you, Mrs. Nora," Asher said. "Please make sure she has everything she needs." When she left, Asher quietly walked to the guest room. He opened the door and peeked inside. Juliet was asleep in the big bed, looking peaceful. Her hair was spread on the pillow. Without the dirt, he could see she was very thin. There were new lines on her face and a small scar above her eyebrow. Asher felt a rush of feelings. Anger at what had happened to her, guilt that he hadn't been there to help, and love because she was still Juliet. He closed the door and went back to his study, knowing he wouldn't sleep that night. The next morning, Asher woke up in his study chair when he heard movement in the house. He got ready and went to the kitchen, where Mrs. Nora was making breakfast. "Is Juliet awake?" he asked. "Yes, sir. She's in the garden." Asher found her sitting under the big oak tree, wearing a cardigan that was too big for her. She was staring at the roses. "Good morning," he said softly. "I should go," she replied quickly. "Thank you for last night, but I need to leave." "Please," Asher said. "At least have breakfast first." She sighed but agreed. They walked to the kitchen, where Mrs. Nora had made pancakes, eggs, bacon, fruit, and pastries. Juliet stared at the food and then took one pancake and a few strawberries. She ate slowly, like she was afraid the food would be taken away. "Juliet," Asher began, "what happened? Last I heard, you were in medical school." She put down her fork, staring at her plate. "Life happened, Asher. Bad choices, bad luck, bad people. Tell me," he said gently. At first, she stayed quiet. Then she began talking in a flat voice, like she was telling someone else's story. "I finished medical school. I was doing my residency in Boston when my father got cancer. I took a break to care for him and used all my savings for his treatment. When he died, my place at the hospital was gone. Then I met Gideon. He seemed kind and successful. We got married 6 months later." Asher felt a pang of jealousy, but stayed quiet. "He wasn't what he seemed," Juliet continued. "He had big gambling debts. He took loans in my name, maxed out credit cards I didn't even know about. When people came to collect the money, he disappeared, leaving me with debt and a ruined credit score. I tried to start over, working 2 jobs to pay it back. Then I got sick. Pneumonia. I lost my apartment when I couldn't work. Once you're on the streets, it's hard to come back." Asher's hands clenched under the table. "How long have you been homeless?" 8 months. I stayed at a women's shelter for a while, but it's overcrowded. You only get a bed sometimes." Asher wanted to take her hand, but she pulled back. "I don't want your pity, Asher. It's not pity," he said. "It's care for an old friend." She gave a bitter laugh. "Friend? We haven't spoken in 25 years. "That doesn't mean I stopped caring," he said quietly. "I should go," she said again. "Where? Back to the streets? Back to digging through trash?" Her face hardened. Not all of us can be billionaires, Asher. Some of us fail. That's life. Stay here, he said without thinking. I have plenty of space. Take your time to get back on your feet. Why would you do that? She asked. Because I still love you, he thought. But he said, because everyone deserves a second chance. I can't be your charity case, Juliet said. Then work for me, Asher said quickly. My assistant is moving away soon. You're smart and organized. You could replace her. I don't want you to make up a job for me, she said, but he could see she was thinking about it. It's a real job with real pay. Lillian can train you. Please, Juliet. Juliet, let me help you, not as charity, but as a friend. Someone who once meant everything to you. The room grew quiet, full of all the things they hadn't said in 25 years. Juliet nodded slowly. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Okay, she said, but only until I can find my own place, and I will pay rent while I stay here. Asher wanted to argue, but he saw the pride in her eyes. Deal, he agreed. Later that day, Asher showed Juliet around his big house. As they walked through the rooms, he felt something he hadn't felt in many years. Hope. He didn't know what the future would bring, or if Juliet would ever think of him as more than just an old friend helping her. But for now, she was here, safe and warm. And maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. When they walked through the garden, their hands touched by accident. This time, Juliet didn't move her hand away. Asher's heart started beating fast, like he was a young man in love for the first time. Some things, he thought, never change. 2 weeks passed since the rainy night Asher had found Juliet. Now, the guest room was truly hers. Mrs. Nora had helped make it cozy, fresh flowers in a vase by the window, a soft blanket at the end of the bed, and a little stack of books on the nightstand. Juliet stood in front of the mirror wearing her new clothes. They were simple but nice, and Asher had bought them for her first day of work. Today, she would officially start as his assistant after a week of training with Lillian. You can do this, she whispered to herself, trying to calm the nervous feeling in her stomach. It was hard to believe her life had changed so quickly. Just 2 weeks ago, she was trying to survive on the streets. Now she was living in a mansion and about to start a job that paid more than she had ever earned before. A knock on the door made her jump. Juliet, are you ready? Asher called from the hallway. We should leave in 10 minutes. Coming, she replied, taking one last look in the mirror. The woman looking back at her seemed like the old Juliet. Her cheeks had color again, her hair was neatly styled, and her eyes looked a little brighter. But inside, she still felt fragile, as if this new life might break at any moment. When she opened the door, Asher was there in one of his perfect suits. His dark hair was combed neatly, and he smelled nice. The sight of him still made her heart skip a beat, just like when they were young. You look beautiful, he said warmly. Juliet blushed. Thank you, but I'm not sure I'm ready for this. You'll be great, Asher said as they walked downstairs. Lillian says you learn fast. She's being kind, Juliet replied. I barely remember how to use a computer after all this time. Asher smiled. You learned our whole scheduling system in 2 days. Most people take weeks. They had breakfast together, like they did every morning. Mrs. Nora had made French toast, Juliet's favorite. The older woman had taken a liking to Juliet and was determined to help her gain back the weight she had lost. Are you nervous about today? Asher asked as they got into his car. Juliet nodded, holding her new purse tightly. What if your employees think I'm just some charity case? Or worse, what if they find out we have a history and think I'm... She stopped talking. Think you're what? Asher asked gently. That I'm trying to get close to you for personal gain, she said. I've worked too hard to have people believe that. Asher put his hand over hers. No one will think that. Lillian chose you herself and trained you. Your records show you graduated top of your class in medical school. You're more than qualified. His words helped her feel a little better, but the nervousness was still there. They arrived at Lockwood Enterprises, a tall building made of glass and steel. In the elevator to the top floor, Asher said quietly, "Just be yourself. They're going to love you." The morning was busy. Lillian introduced Juliet to everyone and showed her the desk right outside Asher's office. She explained the rules. Asher's schedule was very strict. Only 5 people could see him without an appointment, and lunch was always at the same time unless there was a meeting. By mid-morning, Juliet was answering calls, replying to emails, and planning Asher's schedule like she had done it for years. At lunch, Asher came out of his office. "How's it going?" "Good, I think," Juliet said, "but I'm still getting used to people calling me Miss Carter and asking for permission to talk to you." Asher laughed. "You'll get used to it. Ready for lunch?" They went to a small Italian restaurant nearby. Asher had booked a private table at the back. "You're doing amazingly well," he said. "Lillian called me twice to say how impressed she is." Juliet smiled proudly. "I like the work. It's organized and has rules. Unlike medicine." "Do you miss medicine?" Asher asked, remembering how much she once loved it. Her smile faded. That dream died a long time ago. Asher wanted to tell her it wasn't too late, but he stayed quiet and changed the subject. "What do you think about the apartments I showed you?" "They all seem nice," she said. "I'm thinking about the one closest to the office." "That's the one in my building," Asher pointed out, trying to sound casual. "Yes, I noticed," she said with a small smile. Before Asher could reply, a woman came up to their table. "Asher Lockwood, I thought that was you." Asher looked up, his face turning serious. "Serafina, hello." The woman was beautiful, with long blonde hair and fancy clothes. She looked at Juliet curiously. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend?" she asked. "Of course. Juliet Carter, this is Serafina Mitchell. We work together on the Children's Hospital Foundation Board," Asher said. "Serafina, Juliet is my new assistant." Serafina's eyebrows rose. "Oh? What happened to Lillian?" "She moved to Paris with her fiancé," Asher said. Juliet was kind enough to step in. Serafina gave Juliet a look from head to toe. "How lovely. You must be very qualified." "She has a medical degree from Johns Hopkins," Asher said firmly. Serafina's smile looked forced. "Fascinating. Well, I won't keep you. Lovely to meet you, Juliet. Asher, see you at the gala next month. You promised me a dance." When Serafina left, Juliet pushed her food around her plate. "Who was that really?" "Someone I dated briefly last year," Asher admitted. "It didn't work out. She can be territorial, but she's harmless." Juliet wasn't sure about that, but said nothing. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly. By the end of the day, Juliet was tired but proud. No one had doubted her skills. "Ready to go home?" Asher asked at 5:30. The word home made Juliet's heart squeeze. His mansion wasn't really her home. She needed to live on her own again. "I was thinking of looking at that apartment tonight," she said. "Of course," Asher replied, hiding his disappointment. The apartment was on the 20th floor of Asher's building. It was a small, modern one-bedroom with big windows and a balcony. To Juliet, it meant freedom. "I'll take it," she told the rental agent. But when it came time to pay the deposit and first month's rent, Juliet froze. She had no money until her first paycheck. Asher saw her worry. "I'll cover it. You can pay me back." "No, you've done enough," she said. "Consider it an advance on your salary," he insisted. "Fine," she agreed, "but I'm paying you back every cent, with interest." When the agent left, they stood by the window looking at the city lights. "Thank you," Juliet said softly, "for everything." "You would have made it on your own," Asher said. "You're the strongest person I know." She looked at him, surprised. "You can't mean that. You found me digging through trash. And now, 2 weeks later, you have a job, an apartment, and a plan. That's strength," Asher said. Their eyes met. He gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. She felt a shiver. "We should go," she said, stepping away. The next week, Juliet continued to do well at work. The staff liked her, and Asher enjoyed having her around. The night before she moved out, Mrs. Nora made a special dinner, Juliet's favorite dishes. A little celebration, Asher said. After dessert, Asher cleared his throat. I have something for you. He handed her a small box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny heart charm. Asher, I can't take this, Juliet said softly. It's too much. It's not what you think, Asher said quickly. Look closer at the charm. Juliet held the little heart-shaped charm in her hand and turned it over. On the back, she saw tiny letters carved into it. ECPL GS 1998. You kept this? She whispered, shocked. Asher nodded. I found it when I was cleaning my mom's house after she passed away. She had kept it all these years. Do you remember when we bought these matching charms at the county fair? I lost mine long ago, but somehow my mom had saved yours. Juliet's eyes filled with tears as old memories rushed back. Warm summer nights under the stars, promises to stay together forever, and the heartbreak when she left for college. I thought you might want it back, Asher said gently. It's a piece of your history. Juliet slipped the bracelet onto her wrist. Thank you, she said quietly. This means more to me than any expensive gift. Later that night, Juliet was packing the few things she owned. As she passed Asher's study, she saw the door open. He was sitting at his desk, reading papers. Got a minute? She asked, knocking lightly. Asher looked up and smiled. For you, always. She stepped inside, touching the bracelet on her wrist. I've been thinking about us. Asher put down his papers and gave her his full attention. What about us? Why did you really help me that night? She asked softly. Tell me the truth. Asher was quiet for a while, then he said, because I never stopped wondering about you, where you were, if you were happy. For 25 years, she asked in surprise. Not every day, he admitted, but often enough. You were my first love, Juliet. First love leaves a mark. I tried to call you, she said. After my first year of college, but your number didn't work. When I wrote to your old address, the letter came back. Asher's eyes widened. We had to move when my mom got sick. The building was turned into expensive condos. I tried to find your new number at school, but they wouldn't give it without your permission. So all this time we thought the other one had moved on, Juliet said. Asher stood, walked around the desk, and knelt in front of her. I did move on in a way. I had relationships, even almost got married, but none of them were you. Juliet's eyes filled again. I'm not the same girl you knew. That Juliet is gone. I'm not the same boy either, Asher said, holding her hands. But I'd like to get to know the woman you are now, if you'll let me. Juliet had built strong walls around her heart after her ex Gideon had betrayed her. But Asher felt different. Asher felt like home. We'll take it slow, she said at last. Asher's smile lit up his face. I can do slow. That night, Juliet packed with a mix of excitement and fear. Tomorrow, she would move into her own apartment, her first real step toward independence. But for the first time in years, she wouldn't face the future alone. She touched the silver bracelet. It was a real connection to a past she thought she had lost. Sometimes life gave second chances. Sometimes broken things could be fixed. And sometimes love was patient enough to wait 25 years to bloom again. Juliet's new apartment was small but cozy. She decorated it simply. Plants framed pictures Asher had helped her recover from an old storage unit, and a comfy reading chair that Mrs. Nora insisted Asher didn't need in his house. Every morning, Juliet drank coffee on her tiny balcony while watching the sunrise. Then she walked to work, only 6 blocks away from Asher's building. Her days were busy and full of purpose. She and Asher kept things professional at work, though people could sense there was something special between them. After work, they often had dinner, either at quiet restaurants or at Asher's house, where Mrs. Nora always made sure Juliet ate plenty. They were still taking things slow. No kisses yet, but lots of warm touches and long glances. Asher never pushed for more than Juliet was ready to give. One morning, while Juliet was organizing Asher's schedule, his private phone rang. Asher Lockwood's office, she answered. Is he available? A man's voice asked. Yes, may I ask who's calling? It's Thomas Reynolds, the man said. Juliet knew the name. Thomas was Asher's oldest friend and business partner, currently working in London. Asher had mentioned him many times. Just a moment, Mr. Reynolds. She pressed the intercom. Thomas Reynolds on line 1. Put him through, Asher replied quickly. A few minutes later, Asher came out of his office smiling. Thomas is coming home next week. Permanently. He'll head up our East Coast division. That's wonderful, Juliet said sincerely. He's invited both of us to dinner the night he arrives. Asher added with a small, embarrassed smile. He's curious about the woman who tamed the infamous Asher Lockwood. His words, not mine. Juliet felt nervous. What have you told him about me? The truth, Asher said simply. That we knew each other years ago, reconnected recently, and that you're the most extraordinary woman I've ever known. His honesty still surprised her. After Gideon's lies, it was hard to believe someone could care for her so truly. That evening, Juliet didn't join Asher for dinner. She told him she had laundry to do, but really she needed time to think. She still wondered if she truly belonged in Asher's world. As she folded clothes, there was a knock at the door. She looked through the peephole and saw Serafina Mitchell, a tall blonde woman Juliet had met before. Juliet, Serafina said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. This building is owned by Lockwood Properties. It wasn't hard to find your apartment. Without waiting for an invitation, Serafina stepped inside and looked around. Cozy place. What do you want, Serafina? Juliet asked. I just thought we should talk, woman to woman, about Asher. I don't see why, Juliet replied. I know men like Asher, Serafina said sweetly. They like rescue projects. Helping people like you makes them feel good. But after a while, they remember they need someone from their own world, someone who knows how to act at fancy dinners, someone like me. Juliet kept her voice steady. My relationship with Asher is none of your business. I'm just trying to save you from pain, Serafina continued. To him, you're just a charity case. The words hit Juliet hard, but she didn't show it. She opened the door. Goodbye, Serafina. Serafina smirked as she left. See you at the Foundation Gala next weekend. Try not to embarrass him. That night, Juliet barely slept. The next morning at work, Asher noticed something was wrong. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine. Just tired, she said. I was hoping you'd join me for lunch, Asher said. There's something I want to ask you. At lunch, Asher took her hand. The Children's Hospital Foundation Gala is next week. I'd like you to come with me. Juliet felt nervous again. As your assistant? No, Asher said with a smile. As my date. I don't have anything to wear, and I don't know how to act at those events. You don't need to worry, Asher said warmly. I want you by my side. Juliet hesitated. Serafina came to see me last night. She explained what happened, leaving out the most hurtful words. Asher's face darkened. I'll speak to her. No, Juliet said quickly. That will only make it worse, and maybe some of what she said was right. None of it was right, Asher said firmly. I don't care about that superficial stuff. I care about you. But your world is different from mine, she said. Then let me show you, Asher replied. Come to the gala. If you're uncomfortable, we'll leave early. Juliet saw the determination in his eyes and finally said, Okay, but I'll need something to wear. Asher's smile returned. Leave that to me. The next day was Saturday. Asher took Juliet shopping, but not to the big fancy stores she thought they would go to. Instead, he took her to a small but very pretty shop owned by a kind woman named Beatrice. When Beatrice saw Asher, she gave him a warm hug. This is the young lady you told me about? Beatrice asked, looking at Juliet with kind eyes. Beautiful, just like you said. Come, I have some dresses for you to try. The dresses Beatrice showed Juliet were very beautiful, but not too shiny or showy. They were simple and classy. With Beatrice's gentle help, Juliet chose a dark blue gown. It looked elegant without being too much. When Juliet came out of the changing room wearing it, Asher looked at her with such awe that she felt her cheeks turn red. "Perfect," he said softly. Beatrice wanted to make a few small changes so the dress would fit even better. "I'll send it to your apartment by Thursday," she promised. As they left the shop, Juliet asked, "How do you know Beatrice?" Asher smiled. "She made all my mother's dresses. When Mom got sick and lost a lot of weight, Beatrice would come to our home to make clothes that still made her feel beautiful." Juliet felt touched that Asher had brought her to a place that was special to him. The week before the big charity gala was busy for Juliet at work. Thomas Reynolds, Asher's best friend, was coming on Friday. His welcome dinner would be the night after the gala. Juliet made all the plans, but she still felt nervous about both events. On Thursday night, just as promised, the dress was delivered. It looked even prettier than she remembered. Beatrice's changes made it fit perfectly, as if it had been made just for her. On Saturday evening, Asher came to pick Juliet up from her apartment. He looked very handsome in his black tuxedo, his dark hair a little messy in a nice way. When he saw Juliet in the blue gown, he stopped and stared. "You look absolutely stunning," he said, his voice deep with emotion. "So do you," Juliet replied, feeling the same happy flutter in her stomach that she had felt long ago at their high school prom. The gala was held at the city's fanciest hotel. When they walked into the huge ballroom, Juliet could feel many people's eyes on them. Asher kept his hand gently on her back, guiding her through the crowd. "Asher, there you are," a distinguished older man said, walking toward them. "Dr. Sebastian, I'd like you to meet Juliet Carter," Asher said proudly. "Dr. Sebastian is the chief of surgery at the Children's Hospital and the head of the foundation." Juliet shook his hand, surprised that Asher had introduced her by name, not just as my assistant or my date. "Carter," Dr. Sebastian said, thinking, "Are you the Juliet Carter who wrote that amazing paper on helping children after big injuries?" Juliet's eyes widened. "Yes, that was me. But how did you?" "I used your paper in our hospital's guidelines," Dr. Sebastian said excitedly. "It was groundbreaking work. What are you doing now?" Before Juliet could answer, Asher said smoothly, "Juliet has been helping me reorganize the Lockwood Foundation's health programs. Her ideas have been a huge help." Dr. Sebastian looked impressed. "We should talk more. The hospital always needs fresh perspectives." As the evening went on, Juliet met many people who were actually interested in her ideas. For God, Asher stayed close to her but never spoke for her. He just smiled proudly as she grew more confident. At dinner, they sat with several board members and their spouses. The conversations about healthcare and helping communities made Juliet feel excited. This was what she cared about. "You're a natural at this," Asher whispered as they moved to the dance floor. "I'm surprised," Juliet said. "I thought everyone here would be shallow." "Some are," Asher admitted, "but most care about making a difference." While dancing, Juliet saw Serafina watching them with a sour look. But for once, Juliet didn't feel scared or small. She felt like she belonged. Everything was going perfectly until they met Thaddeus Whitman, the hospital's finance director. Juliet recognized him instantly. "Lockwood, good to see you," Thaddeus said, shaking Asher's hand. "And who's this beautiful woman?" "Juliet Carter," Juliet answered before Asher could speak. "We've met before at Boston General. I was a resident when you worked on their finances." Thaddeus frowned, trying to remember. "Weren't you the one who argued against my plan to cut nursing staff? The one who showed studies proving it would harm patients?" "That's right," Juliet said calmly. "Well, you cost the hospital a fortune," Thaddeus said without smiling. "I'm surprised to see you here with Lockwood. Last I heard, you were taking care of my father." Juliet finished for him. Thaddeus looked uncomfortable and quickly walked away. Asher turned to her with new admiration. "You never told me that." Standing up to Thaddeus is a big deal. He's known for crushing anyone who disagrees with him. "It was the right thing to do," Juliet shrugged. Those nurses saved lives. Asher's eyes softened. That's one of the many reasons I love you. It was the first time he had said it since they found each other again. Juliet's heart raced, but she didn't answer right away. Asher didn't push, he just pulled her close as they danced. Later, Dr. Sebastian came back. Juliet, I've been thinking. We have a part-time job for a healthcare policy consultant at the foundation. Would you like to discuss it? Juliet's eyes widened. Yes, I would. After he left, she turned to Asher. Did you arrange that? Absolutely not, Asher said firmly. That was all you. You impressed him. On the way home, they were both quiet, thinking about the night. At her apartment, Asher walked her to the door. Thank you for tonight, Juliet said. Thank you for giving it a chance, Asher replied, and for giving us a chance. They stood close, feelings swirling between them. Would you like to come in? She asked softly. Are you sure? He asked. She nodded and took his hand. Inside, her apartment was small but warm. You said something at the gala, she began nervously. Something I didn't answer. You don't have to say anything until you're ready, Asher said gently. But I want to, Juliet insisted, because it's true for me too. I love you, Asher. I think I always have. Asher's smile lit up his face. Slowly, he kissed her. It was gentle, like finding something precious again. When they pulled apart, Juliet whispered, Stay with me tonight. Just hold me. I'm not ready for more, but I don't want to be alone. I'll stay as long as you want, he promised. That night, with Juliet curled against his chest, Asher felt happier than he had in years. And Juliet, listening to his heartbeat, finally believed that love could get a second chance. The next evening was Thomas Reynolds' welcome dinner. Juliet stood in front of her mirror, smoothing her simple black dress. Asher had said it was casual, just the three of them at his favorite steakhouse, but she was still nervous. A knock came at her door. Asher kissed her softly. You look beautiful, he said warmly. Is this okay for dinner, she asked. Perfect, he assured her. Thomas is the most relaxed person you'll ever meet. The steakhouse was cozy but fancy. Thomas was already there, a tall man with sandy hair and a big smile. There he is, Thomas said, hugging Asher. About time you showed up. We're 5 minutes early, Asher laughed. Thomas turned to Juliet. You must be the famous Juliet. Asher hasn't stopped talking about you. All good things, I hope, Juliet said. The best, Thomas replied, waving for them to sit. I feel like I already know you. Dinner was easy and fun. Thomas told funny stories about Asher's younger days. Did he tell you about our boat rental business in college? Thomas asked, grinning. We had only one leaky boat, Asher groaned. Must you bring that up? Of course, Thomas laughed. She needs to know what she's getting into, a man with bad business ideas but great recovery skills. Later, the conversation turned serious. Thomas had been in London for 5 years, so Asher updated him on Lockwood Enterprises. The East Coast expansion plans are impressive, Thomas said, especially the community programs. That's all, Juliet, Asher said proudly. She's been pushing me to think beyond profits. Thomas looked at Juliet with respect. I've been telling him that for years. What's your secret? I've seen both sides, Juliet said. Business decisions affect real people. That's exactly what we need more of, Thomas said. Then he looked at Asher and smiled. You weren't exaggerating about her, were you? Not even a little, Asher said, his eyes still on Juliet. Later, when they were almost done eating dessert, Thomas got up to answer a phone call. When he was far enough that he couldn't hear, Asher gently held Juliet's hand. He likes you, Asher said softly. Not that I ever doubted it. I like him too, Juliet admitted, and he's not what I expected. What did you expect? Asher asked. Someone more like the fancy people at the gala, she said honestly. Thomas is real, Asher said with a smile, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. That's why he's my best friend. He never lets me get too caught up in all the rich and fancy stuff. When Thomas came back, his face looked thoughtful. That was Dr. Sebastian from the Children's Hospital, he said. He told me he met you last night, Juliet, and that you have a background in medicine. Juliet was surprised. Yes, I was a resident at Boston General Hospital before some personal problems happened. He's very impressed with you, Thomas continued. He told me about the policy consultant job he wants to offer you. It's only part-time, Juliet explained. I'd still be Asher's assistant. Thomas looked at Asher in a way Juliet didn't understand. Actually, Thomas said, I wanted to talk to both of you. I'm taking over the East Coast division and I need an executive assistant, someone who already knows the company. Asher's face stayed calm. You want to take Juliet from me? Asher asked. Borrow, Thomas corrected with a smile. Only if she's interested. It would be a promotion. Executive coordinator instead of assistant. Better pay, more responsibility. Juliet felt torn. The job sounded great, especially with the part-time work at the foundation, but she liked working with Asher. He had become a big part of her life, a safe and steady presence. You don't have to decide now, Thomas said kindly, seeing her hesitation. Think about it. Talk it over with Asher. That night, when Asher walked Juliet back to her apartment, she asked, Would you be upset if I worked for Thomas? Asher took her hands. I want whatever makes you happy. Working with Thomas would be a great chance for you. And selfishly, you'd still be in the same building, just a few floors away. I like working with you, Juliet admitted. I like it too, Asher said softly. But maybe it would be good to keep our work and personal life a little separate. Juliet thought about it. You make a good point. Asher's face became more serious. I've been thinking about us, about our future. Her heart beat faster. What do you mean? I love you, Juliet. These past 2 months have been the happiest of my life. I don't just want to be your boss or your boyfriend. I want a future with you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Juliet's eyes widened. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. This is a key to my house. I want you to move in with me when you're ready. No pressure. Tears filled Juliet's eyes. It was perfect. Commitment without rushing. Thank you, she whispered. I'll think about it. About all of it. They shared a long kiss goodnight, and Juliet went inside, her heart full and her mind busy with thoughts. The next Monday, Juliet met with Dr. Sebastian about the foundation job. She would use her medical knowledge to help poor communities get better health care. It was work she truly cared about. We need someone who understands both medicine and how it affects real people, Dr. Sebastian said. Your background is perfect. By the end of the meeting, Juliet had accepted the job. She'd work there 2 days a week, starting immediately. Now she just had to decide about Thomas's offer. When she got back to the office, Asher was on a call. She left a note on his desk saying she had accepted the foundation job. An hour later, Asher came over, smiling. Congratulations, the foundation is lucky to have you. Thank you, Juliet said, smiling back. It feels good to use my medical skills again. Asher sat on her desk. Have you thought about Thomas's offer? I'm leaning toward taking it, Juliet said. You were right about separating work and personal life, and it's a good step forward. Then you should do it, Asher said. Thomas would be a great mentor. Suddenly, there was loud shouting by the elevator. A man in messy clothes was arguing with security. I need to see Juliet Carter, he yelled. Juliet froze. She knew that voice. Gideon, she whispered, feeling cold inside. Asher followed her gaze, his expression hardening. Your ex-husband? Juliet nodded. It had been almost 3 years since Gideon had vanished, leaving her in terrible debt. And now he was here, making a scene. Stay here, Asher said, walking toward the commotion. A moment later, security led Gideon into a small conference room. Asher came back. He's demanding to see you. I can have him removed, or you can talk to him. I'll stay with you. I need to face him alone, Juliet said. He's not dangerous, just selfish. Asher agreed, but stayed outside. Inside the room, Gideon looked older, with gray in his hair. He stood when she walked in. Juliet, thank God, it took me forever to find you. What do you want, Gideon? Juliet asked coldly. I came to apologize. What I did to you was terrible, he said. You left me with nothing, worse than nothing, debt in my name. I lost everything, she said. I know, he said, his voice breaking. I was a coward. My gambling got out of control. Why are you here now? She asked. I've been in rehab. Part of my recovery is making amends. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. It's not everything I owe you, but it's a start. Inside was a $50,000 check. How did you find me? Juliet asked. I went to Boston first, then finally heard you might be here. I didn't know you worked for Asher or that you were with him, Gideon said bitterly. No thanks to you, she snapped. Do you know I was homeless after you left? Gideon looked shocked. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. It doesn't matter now, she said tiredly. I've rebuilt my life. Please take the money, Gideon insisted. Do whatever you want with it, but let me do this one thing. Juliet studied his face. This time she saw real regret. Fine, she said, but this changes nothing. I understand, Gideon said. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. He hesitated before leaving. Are you happy with Lockwood? Yes, she said truthfully. Good, you deserve it, he said softly. Then he left. Juliet stayed in the room, thinking. Asher knocked and came in. Are you okay? He gave me this, she said, showing him the check. What will you do with it? Asher asked. I'm not sure yet, but it feels like closure. Why don't you take the rest of the day off? He suggested. She agreed. That evening, after walking through the park for hours, Juliet went to Asher's mansion. Mrs. Nora greeted her and told her Asher was in his study. She found him reading, glasses on his nose. His smile lit up when he saw her. She put the silver key he'd given her on his desk. His face fell slightly until she said, I'm not giving it back. I'm ready. I want to move in with you. Joy filled his face. He hugged her. What changed your mind? Gideon's visit, Juliet said. It made me realize I've been holding back, living in the past, but now I feel free. What about the job with Thomas? I'm taking it, she said, and I've already accepted the foundation job. Everything is falling into place. She smiled. I know what to do with Gideon's money. I want to start a program for homeless women, to give them clothes for interviews, training, childcare, everything I wished I had. That's a wonderful idea, Asher said. The Lockwood Foundation could match the funds. I'd like that, Juliet said. I want to turn what happened to me into something good. Later that night, as they planned her move and the program, Mrs. Nora served a special dinner. I knew from the first night you were the one, she said happily. Asher took Juliet's hand. For once, I agree with you completely. 2 months later, Juliet stood outside a small storefront, the new home of Fresh Start, her program for women leaving homelessness. With Gideon's money and the Lockwood Foundation's match, it had become real faster than she ever imagined. Asher stood beside Juliet, holding her hand. She looked at the big building in front of them. To her, it was more than just a building. It's perfect, Juliet said, giving Asher's hand a little squeeze. I can't believe how fast everything happened. That's what happens when you have a great idea and the determination to make it real, Asher said with a smile. The board agreed right away. Juliet had been doing very well in her new job as Thomas's executive coordinator. She had made many smart changes that helped the company work better, and now everyone in the East Coast division respected her. She also worked with the Children's Hospital Foundation, where she used her medical knowledge to help make healthcare better for children. At home, she and Asher had found a comfortable and happy routine. It felt both new and familiar at the same time, like they had always been meant to live their lives together. As they walked back to the car, Juliet noticed a woman sitting in a doorway across the street. The woman had all her things in a shopping cart beside her. Without even thinking, Juliet crossed the street. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Are you hungry? Can I help you with anything?" The woman looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired from many years of disappointment. "I'm fine," she said, almost automatically. Juliet smiled gently. She remembered that she used to say the same thing when someone offered her help. She had once been too proud and too scared to accept kindness from strangers. "My name is Juliet," she said, sitting down next to the woman. "2 months ago, I was where you are now, but someone gave me a chance, and now I want to give that chance to you." The woman didn't seem sure, but she listened. Juliet told her about the Fresh Start program. "We're not open yet, but I can help you right now," Juliet explained. "You can have a hot meal, a safe place to sleep tonight, and tomorrow we can talk about how to help you get back on your feet." Slowly, the tiredness in the woman's eyes began to change. Juliet saw something she knew very well, a small, beautiful spark of hope. Asher stood across the street, watching. His heart was full of love and pride as he saw Juliet help the woman gather her things. This was the same woman he had fallen in love with twice, compassionate, strong, and determined to make a difference in the world. That evening, after making sure the woman was safe in a shelter where Juliet had friends, they walked hand in hand through the garden at their home. "You're an extraordinary woman, Juliet Carter," Asher said, pulling her close. "I'm just paying it forward," she said, leaning into his arms. "You taught me that." They stood together under the starry night sky. Juliet thought about her journey, from the darkest days of her life to the happiest moments now. She had gone from digging through trash to building a future that would help others. And through it all, Asher had been there. The boy who loved her first, the man who found her again, and the partner now standing by her side. "What are you thinking about?" Asher asked. "I'm thinking about how life sometimes comes full circle," Juliet said. "About second chances, about love." Asher's eyes softened. "I've been thinking too, about how finding you that night was the best thing that ever happened to me, and about how I never want to spend another day without you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. It wasn't the one that had held the key to his house. When he opened it, Juliet gasped. Inside was a beautiful diamond ring, simple but so elegant. "This time I'm proposing," Asher said, kneeling down. "Juliet Carter, will you marry me?" Tears filled Juliet's eyes. She looked at the man who had saved her, not by taking over her life, but by believing in her when she didn't believe in herself. "Yes," she whispered. Her heart felt like it might burst. "Yes, I'll marry you." Asher slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her passionately. Juliet knew their story wasn't just about going from rags to riches. It was about something much more important. It was about going from loneliness to love, from sadness to hope, from losing each other to finding each other again. Some people spend their whole lives looking for a love like this. She was lucky. She had found it twice with the same amazing man, and this time she knew they would hold on to it forever. In the distance, the city lights twinkled like stars. This was the same city where she had once wandered, homeless and hopeless. Now, it was the place where her dreams were coming true. Life could change in a moment, she had learned, sometimes for worse, but sometimes beautifully for the better. As Asher held her close, whispering about their future together, Juliet Carter, once lost, now found, once broken, now healing, once alone, now loved, knew that the greatest adventure of all was just beginning.